Wednesday. No, I'm sorry, it's actually Thursday. I'm a day late. It's May the 24th. The lake level is about 916 and a half. The water temperature, it's getting kind of crazy. It's getting hot. It seemed like we didn't have hardly any 70-degree water. When it finally got there, it got real hot, and it seems like it's jumped right up to the high 70s into the low 80s. But for the most part, I believe a lot of the spawn is, pretty much over with. I'm still seeing a few spawning fish, but we're catching a lot more post-spawn fish. There's still pretty good shad bite going on in the morning, good topwater bite, and you catch them different ways besides the topwater. But that seems to be, really good till about 8 o'clock or so. And if it gets sunny and slick like it has last couple days, it gets pretty tough, or it has been for me, after that 8 o'clock time. And it seems like the bite picks up a little bit later in the day. But, in the morning I've been catching them. I've been going to, pretty much flat banks, especially if there's bait there. And there's a mixture of smallmouth, largemouths, and Kentuckies up there during the shad spawn, chasing the shad and feeding on them. And it seems like, that quits after about an hour, around 7 o'clock. If that starts to slow down, I go out and look for topwater over submerged timber. Like on main lake, secondary points, where channel swings come up against the point, and a lot of the timber might be, anywhere from the surface down to about 15 or 20 feet. Now, a lot of the fish I'm catching out there are suspended. If you can't get them to come up on a topwater, it's the time of year we've been catching them on a flutter spoon. And I think I talked about it last week, the Picasso scrounger head with either a fluke or like a Strike King Rage swimmer or a Kitech swim bait. About a 4-inch swim bait seems to work good, and a half-inch scrounger head, half-ounce scrounger head. Now, them fish, like I said, they're anywhere from 5 to 15 foot deep, suspended. What I'm doing with the scrounger head is just counting it down like you would a regular swim bait, and just a steady retrieve back, trying to bounce it off a little bit of the timber. Another thing that's working, and it does about every time this year, is a flutter spoon. This is a Dixie Jet flutter spoon that they stopped making years ago, but they actually reintroduced them a couple years ago. Most all the tackle stores in the area have got them. My favorite color is probably a white with maybe a little red. And I'll mix it up between a 1/2 ounce and a 5/8 ounce. And I'll fish this a lot like a swim bait. If you want to watch a good little video on how to fish this, go to my website. It's Hooked on Bass. And a buddy of mine, he's since passed away, but 2 years ago he did about a 10-minute video on what type of equipment he uses, how he fishes it, and what type of structure he fishes it over. It's really informative. His name's Bill Beck, longtime fishing guide on Table Rock. But if you're going to be fishing the flutter spoon and haven't fished it before, you need to watch that video. Go to Hooked on Bass. It's only about a 10-11 minute video. It'll help you fish that flutter spoon. And also, another deal that's going on is these fish start getting underneath these deep docks, and we'll catch them with either a flutter spoon or a 4.5-inch Strike King spoon or a jig and slab spoon. And basically what we're doing is pitching in the stalls, in the shade, underneath the boats, and those fish will suspend. Later in the summer they'll get deeper, 20 to 30 feet. Right now, if I get a bite, it's probably about 10 to 15 foot. And I'm not getting bit off all the docks I normally do. I've got certain docks that seem to be holding fish, but I think as that water gets warmer, you'll see more and more fish get out there around them docks. A lot of the summertime patterns, I haven't really found the fish out there in 30, 35 foot yet. There may be some drop shot fish being caught. I've looked around a little bit over some deeper trees and off the end of some gravel flats, and I haven't seen too much of what I felt was drop shot fish that I could catch. But I have been catching some out of the conservation brush piles, and the key depth for me seems to be about, if I can find rock piles or brush, in that 15 to 25 foot. A couple different ways I'm catching them out there. This is either a 1/2 ounce or 5/8 ounce. Pig Sticker makes it. It's a pig rig, but it's the same thing as like a biffle hardhead. Strike King's got one. It's called a structure head, and basically you can put whatever kind of bait you want on it. I've been using a Zoom Magnum finesse worm. You can use a baby brush hog, a speed craw, but the worm seems to be working fairly good for me. You can throw a football jig out there as well, but I've been throwing this new 5 fish 9/16. It's an ultimate finesse jig, but it's got a really good head. It comes through the brush so much better than like a football jig does. Knock on wood, I haven't lost one yet in the brush, and I know I'm gonna. It's just a matter of time. But when I've got it hung up, I've been able to get it unhung. It's really got a unique design for fishing that heavy cover. It's got a good hook in it. Doesn't have too big of a hook, so if you're fishing out there deeper, you can get a good hook in it. And I've been using some kind of a twin tail for a trailer, like a Zoom Speed Craw will work. I've got a Rage Craw on this one, but like a twin tail chompers. And it seems like the best colors for me are brown and green, whether it's green pumpkin with a little watermelon, like Okeechobee Craw, which is a watermelon with a little blue, will work on the trailer. And I'm just getting this down in the brush and working it real slow. And usually if you get one bite out of the brush pile, you'll get a couple bites. Another thing that's also working, and this is working kind of throughout the lake. I was up in the James River today, and it didn't work up here as well, but it's actually been working for me in the mid-lake area, because there's still a little bit of stain up, around Kimbling and the Baxter. Not much, but there's as much stain there as there is in the upper James River. The rivers are pretty clean right now. I've got a little green tint, but anyways, I've been throwing a 6XD Strike King, fat-free shadow work, a Bill Norman DD22, and I'm throwing it in the same area that I'm throwing the football jig. I'm trying to bang it off the brush piles. But down lake, I will also throw this. I talked about, fishing a flutter spoon and a swim bait over that deeper submerged timber off the points. And that's something that usually works for me for a few weeks this time of year. I'll take this big crankbait. Now, I won't be hitting bottom, because a lot of times I'll be in 30, 40 feet. But what I'll do is I'll get it down about 15, 18 foot and bounce it off a lot of that pole timber down there. And you will lose some crankbaits, but you will catch some good fish too. Until them fish set up and go deeper, it's going to be about a 2-3 week period where they're kind of in that 15 to 20 foot water column before the lake starts to set up a thermocline where they go a little deeper. A lot of the shallow bite, I'm not getting near the Ned rig fish. Now, some of them areas, if you got an area in the morning where you're catching some topwater fish and there's a little shad spawn going on, they stop biting the topwater baits. Pick up a little Ned rig, or you can Carolina rig like a baby brush hog or a Zoom Speed Craw, and fish it in that 5 to 20 foot range on them flats, and you can pick up a few fish that way. And you can also catch a few on a little underspin as well. Still a lot of things working, but I'm finding less and less fish up there shallow. They're starting to move out there a little bit deeper, and they should continue as the water warms up. So, till next week, good luck, good fishing.